90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
The following radio program has been approved for broadcast by the Federal Communications Commission and is in compliance with all community standards.
From Los Angeles,
Cary Harrison.
Russia, if you're listening.
Talk show, random, political, outrageous, philosophical, analytical, passionate, sunsets, roadkill cooking tips, open-minded, swordsman, bent, resolute, chocolate, bushwhacker, belt buckles, investigative, companion, fearless. Call in. Piercing the cloud of mainstream entertainment. It's the Cary Harrison Files.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome to Glad to have you aboard. Live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. Simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or Cary, C-A-R-Y, Harrison YouTube. And that way we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us at kpfk.net. That's kpfk.net. That's where you'll find the video stream. Also, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get a transcript of this entire show, plus access to clips and stuff that we can no longer do on the radio. And that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. Well, no bullets now, no scaffolding, just a broadcast-ready love letter to managed destiny. How did we get to where we are? I do this, by the way, because there are people that are like 20, 18, who knows, that are streaming, may not have the historical architecture that you have, may have never had the access, and are just hoodwinked and sideswiped by every single move happening every day and just get buried by it. So you're educated, you may get it, but this is a reminder for all of us and a help as to how it works. Because once you know how it works, you can step around it, you can step over it, you can step around it. But unless anyone bothers to break it down for us, which they no longer do in the mainstream media, we just, we get ambushed. So we're going to start by applauding, right? Not the polite kind, not the NPR pledge drive clap that sounds like someone tapping politely on a soup bowl. I mean, cathedral applause, organ pipe applause, the kind reserved for moon landings, for antibiotics, and the invention of chilled martinis so cold they give your ancestors goosebumps. Because what you're witnessing, this immaculate redesign of democracy into something leaner, quieter, smoother, and suspiciously well lubricated, is nothing short of civilization's most ambitious glow-up. Yep, achievement. For centuries, we labored under the clumsy superstition that citizens should govern themselves. Citizens! The same lovable chaos goblins who treat comment sections like gladiator arenas and believe a meme counts as research. The same species that once tried to microwave a metal fork and then blamed physics. And then we gave them ballots. It was a bold move. A slightly drunk move. Democracy is now viewed as a civic petting zoo. Every few years, the masses wander in, feed the goats of public opinion, slap the machinery of state on the backside, and strut home convinced that they've personally adjusted history's zipper. Meanwhile, Destiny was in the corner, scrolling its phone, barely looking up. Now, in the past, democracy meant friction. It meant noise. It meant arguments that went on way too long and ended in compromise that nobody loved. Democracy meant candidates sweating under lights while someone in the third row asked a question about farm subsidies. It meant newspapers that irritated presidents. It meant judges who occasionally said no. Democracy was sweaty. Democracy was loud. Democracy was alive. And alive, we're told, is inefficient. Efficiency. Now there's a word that purrs and... Efficiency is governance without the mess. Efficiency is power that doesn't have to wipe its shoes before entering the room. Efficiency is destiny with a calendar invite. Okay, I'm 11 years old. It's okay. A century ago, and we're going to cue this excavation, dust off the Tweed. Europe found itself bloated with humiliation. Inflation was so feral that it made money look like glitter at a toddler's birthday party. Parliaments were arguing like over-caffeinated opera singers while the roof quietly smoldered. Enter the tidy intellectuals, not cartoon villains twirling mustaches like overcooked spaghetti, not frothing lunatics pounding tables. No, these were serious men in serious suits with serious foreheads, men who believed that history was something you could engineer if only you removed the inconvenient parts. Democracy, they said, was noisy. Democracy was slow. Democracy let peasants gum up the works like popcorn in a gearbox. Surely national survival demanded coordination. It demanded discipline. It demanded alignment, not repression. After all, ICE is only for immigrants, darling, or your Diet Coke. But maybe we're talking a different kind. We're talking about alignment. There's a long list of things that Washington hasn't bothered to do while inching toward what could be a strike on Iran. And it's a list so basic that it reads like Civics 101 written in crayon. Washington hasn't informed Congress. It hasn't briefed them. It hasn't consulted them. It hasn't even performed the ceremonial nod toward constitutional adulthood. Apparently, war powers now operate like a pop-up notification. Swipe right, proceed. Washington, and I don't mean George, hasn't marched out the national security choir to explain why this moment, attacking, blowing up, conquering Iraq, this exact urgent, cinematic moment demands American missiles. No maps, no timelines, no sober-eyed explanation of stakes and the consequences, just vibes. Washington hasn't told you what happens the morning after, because wars are easy at 9 p.m. on cable. They get complicated around breakfast. So what's the objective? And what's the exit? And what's the cost? I mean, this country is so bankrupt, we had to come in and have a billionaire with a metaphorical chainsaw remove the entire Department of Education, plus 1/3 of the federal government, because we're so bankrupt. Sure, he walked away with $250 billion in government contracts from a bankrupt government. That would be you, the taxpayer, paying for it. So what would be the cost of this? Silence. The kind of silence that hums. Washington hasn't defined success. Is it a crater? Is it a regime wobble? Is it a press release declaring mission accomplished with confetti and a banner? What precisely counts as victory here? And how will we know when we've stumbled into it? And most telling of all, Washington hasn't addressed the American people. Not as citizens, not as the ones who pay, who serve, who bleed or live with the consequences. No fireside explanation, no direct appeal, no attempt to persuade. Just the faint suggestion that decisions of war can be made like executive menu choices without debate, without daylight, without so much as a courtesy knock on the constitutional door. If you're going to start something that can set a region on fire, the least you can do is explain why you're holding the match. But we're told it's all in the name of efficiency, with the hushed reverence of a monk discussing enlightenment. They spoke of unity the way a wedding planner talks about seating charts. They spoke of eliminating redundancy, and by redundancy, they mean people who wouldn't sit down and color inside the lines. The early pitch, as you'll recall, didn't arrive in jackboots. It arrived in loafers. As I sip my coffee, I think you now know what my vice is. Well, it's only one. I've got about 40, but this is the one that you get to watch streaming on video. Like, what's her name? Who is it? Famous actress, did ads in maybe the late 1970s or 80s for International Coffee, whatever that was. And it was a grandfather clock striking midnight. And she said, and she had that mid-Atlantic sound. Famous work. She acted with Bogart. I know, you know her name. I can't think of it. But she said, oh, nothing more delicious than a cup of coffee at midnight. Okay. I mean, I do like to drink it around midnight, but why sleep if you could stay up all night, right? So back to what I was saying. We're talking about the easy pitch that we were all given didn't arrive in jackboots, although we now have them. It arrived in loafers, which we don't so much have anymore. It arrived with memoranda, with charts, with diagrams that showed arrows flowing confidently toward destiny. Destiny! Destiny! It arrived with a little wink and a little whisper. Trust us. We've got this. Does it sound familiar? The monster didn't burst through the door like a bar brawler. It slid in like a smooth operator with a spreadsheet, a cologne called Destiny. Because you weren't allowed to see all this government waste and malfeasance, allegedly. All you got to know about is it was being removed, and the money was being upfunneled right to the top. Destiny, efficiency rarely arrives screaming. It arrives soothing. It arrives saying, you're tired. Let us handle it. And people were tired of chaos, tired of humiliation, tired of feeling like history was something happening to them instead of something they controlled. So, in the past, going back to the beginning of time, recorded history, people have always traded friction for order. They've traded unpredictability for alignment. They've traded sovereignty for coordination. And I guess it felt like maturity, right? Why, I'm in charge of my destiny. I've handed it over to the grown-ups. Yep. I'm mature. It felt like the adults were finally taking the wheel, and it ran beautifully right up until it didn't. Cary Harrison with you, and this is the Cary Harrison Files, caryharrison.com and goharrison.com. Live video streaming on YouTube, Substack, and everything with a chip and a signal right now, or shortcut at kpfk.net. You can later listen as a podcast across every service. Simply Google Cary Harrison or the Cary Harrison Files. Our newsletter with a transcript of this entire show, stuff we no longer can say on the radio, is at Cary, C-A-R-Y, Harrison.com or goharrison.com. There's a comment on the YouTube live video stream, putting on my glasses. The world is falling apart at the seams, but we can depend on Cary Harrison to save the day. We love you. I love you. Mwah. Mwah. Okay. Now, we're going to fast forward. One of the reasons that I'm walking you through what to some of you might feel obvious is there is an entire world of people, like I said, who are going to hear this later as a podcast, or like our friend there sending love bombs as a live stream or podcast, watching video, and they might be 20 years old with no historical reference, unlike you. Maybe they never read Huxley or Orwell, and see you and I right now playing out history and also looking into the future for and with many of them, tens of thousands of eyewitnesses, but they don't know. All they know is they may not live in a city where there were boots, but they know there are boots. There were no parades, but there are parades. No theatrical chest thumping, but there is theatrical chest thumping, because that was so 1930s. But if you don't know about the 1930s, you don't know it was the 1930s and now 2026. And that's black and white film with dramatic lighting and heavy eyebrows back then. And today, too. Wait a minute. We're about to have more parades, aren't we? And our cities are now filled with boots. It's the 1930s, and whatever analogies you want to make, well, maybe you're not crazy. However, today, Consolidation wears a fleece vest and uses phrases like cross-sector synergy. It doesn't shout when it's outside the White House in the vast landscapes of billionaires. Consolidation, which is all this is, consolidating power from 3 branches of government to 1, consolidating all the money of Wall Street to one place, one government official deciding tariffs. Interestingly enough, the Supreme Court today said, at least for a while, but just governing Earth, one guy. Consolidation generally murmurs. We have the loud part, but it's the quiet part that gets stuff done. It doesn't conquer, it optimizes. We are now living, wow, it's like the Matrix, isn't it? Or we're now living in a giant software. The entire planet is now technological. You and I are wired through the internet. You and I are connected, our phones, this show, all of it optimized. Democracy isn't wicked. This is what they're telling you. It's just tired, like a flip phone at a tech conference, like a fax machine at a cryptocurrency summit. Democracy is too slow. It's too messy, too emotionally incontinent for a world of high-frequency trading and nuclear chess. Surely you wouldn't entrust civilization to voters who still argue about pineapple on pizza like it's a constitutional amendment. And so the adults have stepped in. Throughout history, they have always stepped in. They see that little sliver of light and they step in. You got 100 people on an island, pretty soon someone's doing hair, there's trade, someone's making shoes, people are getting along, they're cooking, they have parties, they dance, and there's always one guy at the edge going, opportunity. And they step in. The state and industry here in this very large island, this now global island, are merging all over the place, everywhere, ubiquitously, all across the planet like a power couple at a luxury spa retreat where towel modesty isn't required. Regulators and executives gazing into each other's balance sheets over candlelight. Platforms curating discourse like a maitre d' deciding who gets seated near the window and who waits politely outside in the rain. Banks whispering sweet compliance nothings into the ear of authority. It's Swan Lake, but with compliance officers. And baby, it's smooth like silicone lube. You don't lose rights anymore. That's caveman stuff. That's sweaty. That leaves bruises. Now you simply drift out of compliance. You trigger a risk flag. You get gently ghosted by the financial system like an awkward date who overshared at dessert. There's no shouting needed, no drama, just access denied. You see, civilization has evolved. Where brute force once stomped, algorithms now slide in like silk sheets. We're seeing brute force, but here at home, other than, the icy love that we're getting, we're seeing algorithms sliding in like silk sheets. There's no need for a midnight knock when a quiet account freeze can accomplish the same objective without wrinkling anyone's tailored suit. This is curated stability, managerial enlightenment, governance so insulated from the electorate it might as well be wrapped in bubble wrap and locked in a wine cellar next to the good Bordeaux and someone's great-aunt's discarded dildo, if that's the plural. The relief. The relief of it all. You don't have to think about trade policy anymore. You don't have to understand surveillance law. The experts have analytics suites. They've got models so complex they could seduce a supercomputer without even the rub of a forefinger. They've got predictive analytics and smiles polished to a mirror shine because they know best. Now, elections are remaining, of course. So we hope. Decorative antiques, these elections. You can still vote. You can still Take your little democracy selfie. It's civic cosplay. Meanwhile, the real machinery hums behind velvet curtains, where oxygen itself might need credentials. Your consent hasn't been confiscated. It's been gently escorted to the coat check. Friction's messy, you see. Debates disruptive. Sovereignty's heavy, like hauling your own luggage instead of letting the concierge glide it upstairs. Streamlining? Streamlining's a spa day for power. So we're going to dig a little deeper because history loves a repeat performance. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, the intellectual case against democracy wasn't made by cartoon villains. It was made by serious thinkers who believed modern complexity required central planning. That technology demanded hierarchy, that national survival couldn't be left to mood swings and parliamentary theatrics. You getting the code here? They didn't torch elections overnight. They simply hollowed them out. Like sending in the FBI to Fulton County in Georgia. We're just going to remove all the paperwork and then once again declare, it was fraud. Emergency powers slipped on something comfortable and decided to stay a while. Industry and state began flirting aggressively. Speech that complicated unity was labeled corrosive, like a bad rash on the body politic. Question from KPFK. Thank you so much. Am I taking calls? One guy is asking about a slave master. Masters, plural. Yes, I will take calls a little bit later. I'm just like sitting here too messy with, I'm horripilating in frothing. I know, it's the reality I live in, the reality you in, but we'll get there in just a minute. Where was I? I was talking about speech. Yes, that freedom of speech, that voting, that corrosive thing when you and I get involved, when the grown-ups are planning your future. The administrative equivalent of whispering, as they do, relax, I'll take care of everything, while quietly pocketing the keys. Yes, eventually that machinery in the past, as is the present, ran so beautifully, it began grinding people into spare parts. But I want you to calm down, because this time it's different. We now have better branding. God, it screams sarcasm, doesn't it? We've now got better lighting. We've got better user interfaces. No talk of destiny or blood, just alignment, sustainability. That's what that really means. Stakeholder harmony. You stakeholder, you. Words so sterile, they could pass a health inspection. This is why I loved studying linguistics in college. It's all code breaking. And I'm not a math guy. I'm a word guy. It kind of works the same way, but I have to use fingers and toes to actually do real mathematics, but it's the same outcome. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but, names will, oh, really? You fire some names or words at someone, it can be a lifetime of therapy and it still doesn't get fixed. So it's not true, but they would like you to think so. So the result of now is a society that hums like a well-tuned engine after a very expensive oil change. Dissent simply becomes background noise. Debate becomes entertainment, doesn't it? Policy emerges from rooms so exclusive, even oxygen needs credentials. And you applaud because your groceries arrive on time and your streaming service buffers flawlessly. Your outrages pre-seasoned and delivered hot. Efficiency? For whom? Okay, we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot because it's time to give some love to this wonderful radio station. And I want to remind you that the Cary Harrison files exist because friction still exists, because there's still oxygen for dissent, because there are still corners of the culture not entirely remodeled into curated compliance lounges with mood lighting and a loyalty program. And if you value that, If you value a space where ideas still clash instead of cuddle, now's the time. I want you to make the pledge. I want you to pick up the phone and call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Throw in 50 or $100 or $150 and be in charge of your future for once. Be in charge of the future of your children and your grandchildren for once. Not because we flirt with you, not because we promise tote bags, thank God we don't, or tote bags that smell faintly of moral superiority. No souvenirs. This is on you now. This is you grabbing your own power. The insulation of power from consent thrives when independent friction dries up. So for you and me, this is our mutual escape hatch. Information and context. A delicious splash of cool water in a parched desert of propaganda. Our founding father, Tommy Jefferson, Tommy to his friends, Thomas to the Constitution, he said, well, he didn't say, but he said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. I'm going to say that again because it's kind of a rhyme. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. In other words, people kept in the dark can't simultaneously safeguard liberty. So your contribution isn't charity here. It's a crowbar in a room full of velvet. It's sand in the silk sheets. Ooh, I can feel it. It's hot. I want you to call. I want you to click. I want you to support 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Put in the amount that makes sense to you. I'm not going to strong arm you or wrestle you to the mat of our mutual future. We're all at the self-serve pump now, but we could put gas in it together or we let it run dry. If it runs dry, then the fuel of this remaining community evaporates. And once friction's gone, it doesn't just magically reappear like a romantic subplot. So make the pledge, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Efficiency for the public or efficiency for the insulated? Efficiency for the citizen standing in line or efficiency for the people who never stand in line? Because here's the elegant truth beneath all this polished managerial enlightenment. Democracy is inefficient precisely because it requires power to ask permission. It requires explanation. Democracy requires persuasion. Democracy requires humility. And humility is not efficient. But a system insulated from consent, well, that's efficient. Efficient for continuity, efficient for insulation. Efficient for those who prefer their authority uninterrupted, their policy frictionless, their trajectory unbothered by voters with inconvenient moods. The FCC, once an independent agency, is now helmed by an author of Project 2025, Mr. Brendan Carr, who has launched investigations against a number of media companies, including this one. And you are part of this. So you can make a pledge. You can pick up the phone. You can call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Throw in your 50, throw in your $100. This is a long-lasting, permanent shelf life piece of protection for you and your future. And here's where this gets deliciously ironic. The only reason I can say that sentence out loud on this frequency, what I just said, in this format, on the Cary Harrison files, in this messy, unpredictable, unscripted way, is because friction still exists somewhere. Because not everything has been optimized. Because there are still spaces where consent matters. And that right there is what we're talking about today. Independent media is friction. Unscripted thought is friction. A date is also friction if you're lucky. But a broadcast that doesn't yet run through a compliance dashboard before it reaches your ears, still happening. That's friction. And friction in an age of curated stability is expensive. So if you're listening right now, if you're nodding or squirming or rolling your eyes, but still tuned in, this is the moment. Not later, not when it's convenient, now. Pick up the phone, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Throw in what you can, tiny little increments or installments of more if you can. Because the insulation of power from consent thrives when independent voices dry up, when friction gets too costly, when the messy spaces where people can argue, where they can laugh, where they can challenge, where they can provoke quietly, when those spaces disappear. Your pledge is not charity here. It's participation. It's the opposite of optimization. It's you saying, nope, I'd actually like a little sand left in the gears. You don't find Cary Harrison files because it flatters you. You find it because it irritates someone. You find it because we ask questions that algorithms would rather avoid. And they have avoided us. Trust me, we've been knocked off a whole lot of perches. You find us because in a world increasingly curated, friction still deserves oxygen. So call the number, make the pledge, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-5735. If you're watching the video stream, I was scratching my upper lip and it ruined my articulation. See, I'm scratching my upper, terrible. Don't ever do that on camera. You know, there's basic protocols and training, but hey, this is like real here. So I want you to go to the site, kpfk.org. I want you to become a sustaining member. That means you have permanent membership. Wow. And even though it sounds like we're all on the Titanic switching deck chairs, there's lifeboats. You get to decide, are there lifeboats or are there not lifeboats? And if it's too late, there are never lifeboats. So this is about maintaining your friction, because once friction's gone, once everything hums too smoothly, once every dissenting voice has been gently escorted to the code check, it's gone. And if we're going to talk about managed destiny, we might as well admit this. The destiny of public discourse depends on whether you're willing to support the messy parts. So I'm going to give you a minute. Then we're going to come back. We're going to take some calls because they're piled up. And I was going to just keep yapping away, but no. I think I'll make an ebook of the rest of this. That's probably a good idea. I'll put it on my website so you can look for it there. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Okay, Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files, CaryHarrison.com, and GoHarrison.com. Live video streaming on YouTube, Substack, everything with a chip and a signal, or a shortcut to the video stream at kpfk.net. You can later listen as a podcast across every service. Simply Google Cary Harrison or Cary Harrison Files. Our newsletter with a transcript of this entire show, including your calls, the rich, vibrant, monophonic tones, your golden glottals flapping, all that transcribed as clumsily as AI can do it. So probably, I don't know, it's probably in the 85% accuracy now, plus stuff we can't say on the radio. So make sure you do that. Before we dive back in, let me give out the numbers, which you already know, 818-985-KPFK. You just hit a certain number. It goes to support or to take the calls. Let's go to Carlos in Carson. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hello, I love your pros, man. But listen, talking about friction. I'm truly scared now for the situation developing in Iran. It seems to me that we may be getting close to some kind of fight, whether it's a big fight or a small fight. It's a dangerous fight because remember, Iran has very strong allies such as China and Russia. They could close the Strait of Hormuz, what 20% of the oil of the world flows through. But let me give you where this came from. Prior to 9/11, there was a think tank from the Department of Defense composed of a lot of individuals that had dual ties with Israel. They came out with a project for a new American century, where they devised and programmed 6 countries in the Middle East to be decimated by our forces on behalf of the state of Israel. 5 or 6 have already been taken out. Iran is still left over. So that's where this idea of attacking Iran has come from.
Yes, you'll remember, Carlos. You'll remember, I think it was around 1997, PNAC. And we used to talk about it a lot, and it was listed, and there was Libya, and there was Afghanistan, there was Iraq. Boom, 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 tick off the boxes. Here we are, suddenly out of nowhere, as the Epstein administration is doing backflips, suddenly it's time to assault Iran. Nobody has said why. It's just supposed to happen, and a decision is going to be made. A decision about what? And here we are. It was codified a decade ago, and it's on the hit list. I thank you so much, my friend. What an excellent call. Very much appreciate it. Let's go to Samuel in Long Beach. Samuel, you're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
I really liked what you were saying about democracy. And I just want to bring up, we've got this huge group that sees no democratic participation and has others' will forced upon them in the most violent way. I'm talking about the other group of sentients in this world that we call animals. And so right now, Cary, I need you to pledge that you're going to go vegan. So instead of just being a dot connector, you're going to see the image that the connected dots create, which is solidarity and empathy and compassion. Can you do that, Cary?
I love this loaded question because boy, would I look bad if I said no. I will tell you, I try to be as vegetarian as possible. I am vegan adjacent, but I simply cannot pull it off in my lifestyle. And it's not that I crave or want or I'm doing anything wrong, but I don't have access to live at Whole Foods or just eat vegetables as much as I would love to. But I try to minimize my damage and be mindful, which I think is what you'd really like people to do.
So glad to hear you say that. Love your work.
Well, I appreciate your work, my friend, and thank you for the enlightenment. And I hope you have a great day, my friend. That opens up a line. That was Samuel in Long Beach at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines. Let's go next to Robert in San Pedro. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's nice to hear the music of your voice. Relaxing, easy favorite.
Thank you very much. Now, on to my point, democracy. How many of the founding fathers said democracy would lead to tyranny? Do you know that? How many? 4.
How many? Well, I mean...
4 of them.
You mean...
Somebody... Go ahead.
Well, we all remember Thomas Paine. I mean, I would say we would have to quantify how many founding fathers there actually were. So there really isn't an answer, but they all were saying basically the same thing.
Yes, democracy would lead to tyranny. And now let's
not democracy would lead to tyranny. Lack of democracy would go back to tyranny. Because remember, the Declaration of Independence was that there was the tyrant George, and it was not in soft language. Also, the central argument of the Declaration of Independence was lack of immigration, which is codified in the Constitution. We must have a flow of immigrants to be productive in this country. So it's actually in the law that people must come here. And that was the problem with King George, is he was sending in slaves and such. We were property of the crown at the time, and he was demanding more and more and more. And the settlers, the colonists here, couldn't produce enough. So they were like, let us bring in more Germans and Austrians and this and that and the others. And he was like, I ain't going to pay for it. I'm not going to pay for it. You guys figure it out, but I want more. I want more. I want more. We said more immigrants or see ya. Whoops, I didn't say see ya to you, but I think Gary in the control room thought I meant see ya as if I hung up. I didn't. But anyway, I do thank you so much for your call. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, your Harrison hotlines. This is also the beauty of technology. Many, many moving parts, and we can't see them all at the same time, but we do try. Let's try Harold in Santa Barbara. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Wait a minute, I gotta catch my breath. I've been laughing so hard. You guys are a regular Ice House regular. I mean, wow. Well, anyway, all I gotta say is you sounded like an we call it a DJ at an Epstein Island discotheque. But the problem was, I was the only one laughing. All the rest were thanking you. Wow, you're a smooth operator. Gosh, I admire that.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for hanging up on me. You beat me to it. Let's go next to Nader in Fontana. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome. Hello, Nader.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hey, so I'm from Iran, and I lived in this country for 50 years, and love this country. Now, we owe it to those people to go change the regime. We brought the brutal regime on this people anyways. So the world will be a much safer place if this regime falls for everybody. If we do not take care of this regime, once they get hands on nuclear, we'll have another North Korea on our hands, sir. That's my comment.
Well, I don't disagree that if it went that way, but let me ask you this question because it's a great question. Well, of course, I think it's a great question because I'm asking it. So if you asked a question, you'd also think yours was a great question. What do you think about sovereignty? Should the white man, my people, should I decide who gets to be sovereign and who doesn't because I'm ultimately a superior creature? Or can countries in Africa, can countries in the Middle East, even states in my own United States here, should they be allowed to have sovereignty on their own? Or does it take adult supervision? And what I was saying the earlier part of the show was satire. It sounds like some people took it very seriously. Now I need to say it's satire. In fact, I need to do a disclaimer in advance. Humor apparently has gone out the window. But do you believe in sovereignty, even if you don't like it? Sure, if they're hostile toward you directly, problem. But if they are just doing their thing, following the rules, as some people have, do you believe in sovereignty?
I 100% believe in sovereignty, but I think that ship has sailed once President Carter helped this brutal regime come on. And people of Iran right now, they need help to overcome this hellish life that they're living in. So that's where we're at. And these people just killed thousands of people because they were fighting for their rights. So this might be a special situation here. Again, we owe it to these people because we brought this regime upon this poor people.
Well, that part's true. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that we actually brought this in. So this is a result of some good handiwork that went afoul, much like Afghanistan, much like many different countries where, we unmotivated democracy. And here it is years later, ripened and biting us back in the fanny. However, if we owe them that, what do they owe us? Because nothing is free. And you and your sister and your mother and your children will pay for this forever from a country so bankrupt you don't deserve to have a Department of Education anymore. How do you reconcile the cost?
Cary, let me tell you this, sir. The brutal regime that is in control of Iran right now, it is raping and pillaging this country from the water to the soil to all the minerals and natural resources, gas, and everything else. I'd rather take my chances and build something and give away a little bit of that profit and the natural resources and have European countries and America, United States, be involved rather than this brutal regime. So it's the worst or best of two evils. But I'd rather take my chances with some civilized people rather than some. I'm trying to control my language and not get emotional over this, because these people are brutal. They don't care about anything but themselves, and they gotta go, sir. And if U.S. has to attack them, so be it. If we need to give them a hand, so be it. But again, we brought this nightmare upon these people, so we owe it to them to help them to. And there's enough qualified people live in Iran, intelligent minds live in Iran to get that country turned around, as well as so many intelligent minds that live outside the country with lots of resources. So that's our dream and that's our wish. I can't go home. I haven't been home for 30 years because I'm not welcome. I won't be back. I won't get my freedom back. There are thousands, if not millions of people like me.
I've been to your country. I've been to Isfahan. I've been to Tehran. I've been to Persepolis. I was lucky. I saw that when I was like 16 or 17. I will never be able to go back. I get it. I hope you're hearing nobody is defending that regime. But to your point, China is pillaging all the natural resources, polluting everything, destroying everything, brutal to their own people. Nobody's talking about invading China. Where do we decide? Is every country on the table or just some countries because some of us feel passionate?
Your point is well taken, sir. It really is. Who will decide and why would you decide? But I mean, when you look at history, there are times that you gotta choose one side. You gotta do something. But the one thing's for sure: this regime cannot go on like this. It's a matter of time before they get their hands on nuclear weapons. And
what would you say? Because what would you say to? Okay, let's say we whoever we are go in and start murdering people because this seems to be okay now. But no profit is allowed to be handed privately to any government officials that engage in going in and causing this kind of upset. No personal gain or personal profit is allowed. Do you think they would still do it?
Highly unlikely. I mean, the bottom line is follow the money, right? Everybody's after profit. I mean, that's the bottom line. Somebody's got to take some profit, but again, I'd much rather see Iranian people deal with Americans or the Europeans, because right now they're at a dead end, and they don't necessarily. In Iran, we don't need the military occupation. We need help to shake these people up and take their leaders out. And because there are a lot of people that are in the forces in Iran, they are on the edge to go either way. This regime can turn once there's enough momentum and there's enough people and there's the regime, the heads of this government is taken out. There are possibilities, again, that Iranian people are again, very intelligent, very brave. They come out in droves, and and they're putting their lives online to get their freedom. I mean, there are people that they're 40 years old, they've never seen a day of freedom in their lives. That's
Yeah,
sad.
I'm there with you, and I've up against the clock, but let me just say I don't disagree with you. It's how to do it, and it's a tough thing. But I very much appreciate your call, my friend. Having been to Iran, the cradle of civilization, the beating heart of all that we know, for whether it's the Cyrus the Great, from which we get Kyrie Lazon, all of it. Everything. It all comes from there, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So I would love to see it go bye-bye as well. The stinky amount of hundreds of billions of dollars of private profit, and that's the only reason somebody would do it, as opposed to the moral reason that you want. I would like to see a more moral stance, which would mean a public discussion like you and I are having, and you're a brave guy, and I respect you, my friend, and I very much appreciate your call. We're going to take one more quickie, and then we're going to give a little love to our beautiful radio station, because it is that time, and we're going to finish with that. But first, let's say hi to Max in Long Beach. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hey, Cary, love your show, and you got to be on more often, like every day of the week, man. And everybody's got to get a little bit looser. Everybody's too uptight. We all got to do like John Lennon said, let's all come together.
Yes, as a group, even standing in a circle. But that would be a different show at a different hour.
We need you on every day, Cary. And we gotta hear you more articulate. We love to hear you articulate.
Well, I appreciate your articulation, my friend, and thank you so much.
And I marched with you in 2002 on Hollywood Boulevard, as you and I both watched Jackson Browne sing. We were gesticulating each other.
I remember that. Boy, I've been in so many marches. Thank God we live in a city where we can do that still.
So anyway, thank you for your time, and we want more Cary Harrison.
All right, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Cary Harrison with you, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's kind of obvious now. The previous half hour, including all these awesome calls, are going to be available. Get the newsletter and the transcript of everything at caryharrison.com or goharrison.com. I really love hanging out with you. I have to say, this is like such a treat for me, because I'm frustrated and going nuts just like everyone else. And the only way I can talk about this is by, satirizing it. Because if I'm just blunt like a hammer, it's just too painful and we all glaze over, and it's too horrible and too impossible. But, I think the great lesson of Mark Twain is ridiculing the ridiculous. And when you do that, you see the light, you see the access points, you see how to change things. Quick example, and I think I've given this before. Back, 15 years ago, maybe, when Bran Flakes, Post, Kellogg's had high fructose corn syrup, and people didn't know what was wrong with it. They didn't know that it causes cirrhosis of the liver, type 2 diabetes. They just knew there was something wrong with it. And that affected 15% of the profit margins of these cereal companies. Enough that they removed high fructose corn syrup just because people were suspicious. And then they put labels on there. Contains no high fructose corn syrup. All that to say, it only takes about 15% of all of us to change things. It doesn't take 49.3% or 53%. This isn't some kind of like Swiss democracy where all the cantons vote and it's literally a plebiscite. It just takes 15% to ruin the profit margins. And since we know it's all about profit, it will matter. Okay. I want you to pick up the phone. I want you to pick it up right now. I want you to support KPFK. KPFK exists because you and I exist, because friction exists, because we do dissent, because there's still corners of this culture that are not entirely remodeled into these curated compliance lounges. with this ridiculous mood lighting and a loyalty program. You know, you go to the grocery store at Ralph's or whoever. Now, when you check out, up comes a pop-up asking you if you would like to donate like $2 more to a local charity. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to heaven if I do that. But they don't tell you what it is. They don't have to. They already donated to local charities and they get a tax write-off. And all you're doing is giving them their money back for the donation plus a healthy profit because you gave them the money. They didn't sell you anything. They don't owe taxes on it. You made a donation. This is different. This is your life, your future. If you value a space where your ideas still clash, just like the calls we've had, these were great. You're not going to hear this on commercial talk radio where we actually have to think together and maybe be embarrassed together. If you like that, pick up the phone. Call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Throw in $50, throw in $100, throw in whatever you want. Be in charge of your future for once. Be in charge of the future of your children, your grandchildren, not because we're flirting with you, not because we're asking, because insulation from power, from you having consent in your own future, you having agency over your own life, a delicious splash of cool water in your parched desert of propaganda. It goes away when we're on together. A crowbar in a room full of madness, sand in the silk sheets. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Put in the amount that makes sense to you. Nobody's strong-arming you. Nobody. You make a donation, you support this radio station, you support this show. It has an endless shelf life, turned into podcasts, turned into videos, sent far and wide to students all over the world when they don't get to have this curriculum anymore. This is their curriculum. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or go to kpfk.org. Make the donation that fits you. Make the donation that allows you to have the voice, to have you no longer be optimized. The elegant truth behind all of this is enlightenment. And you are an enlightened mammal like me, upright, on all twos. It's exciting. Look, I have an opposing thumb and index finger, at least for now. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Cary Harrison with you, CaryHarrison.com.
Smells like fish. Tastes like chocolate.
It's the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.